Welcome back to Bloom. Our next guest was born with a rare form of muscular dystrophy and later in life had a difficult choice to make: face excruciating surgery or try something no one had ever tried before. Here to talk about his brave decision is Elijah Stacy, who is now considered the face of Duchenne, a fatal muscle wasting disease that also affects both of his siblings. Elijah, welcome to Bloom.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Elijah, you have a rare disease called Duchenne. Can you explain exactly what that is?
Yeah, so Duchenne Muscular Dystrophy is a muscle wasting disease that progresses as time goes on, and it eats away a person's muscles. So when I was about 5 years old, I was walking on my tippy toes. I was having trouble getting off the floor. Going up steps was harder. Keeping up with my friends on the playground was harder. And then as time went on, I got weaker. Then when I was 11 years old, I had lost my ability to walk, became fully dependent on a power wheelchair. And then in my teenage years, I started losing mobility in my arms. And the future right now is that this disease is a fatal disease. It will attack the heart and the diaphragm muscles. And so it's a very serious disease that I'm working hard to complete the cure for.
And you have made such incredible strides in your own personal journey. You were faced with having to possibly undergo excruciating surgery, something very painful and brutal, but you decided to do something else. Explain what decision you made.
Yeah, so my doctor really wanted to push for me having a metal rod inserted into my back to correct the curve in my spine, but I wasn't going to accept that. So I decided, hey, is there anything that I can do? And he said, I don't want to give you false hope. I got to really push for you to get the surgery, but knowing you, I'll give you a small if. And so I decided to take that small if. I went to physical therapy. I worked out on my own at my house. I started eating healthier. I even taught myself how to cook so I could make really healthy meals. I did all these things. And 3 months later, I went back to my doctors and my spine was straighter. And so all I needed was that sliver of hope, that small possibility to make it happen. And I made it happen.
So now you have siblings that also face your same struggles. Are they following in your path as well?
Yeah, so my 14-year-old brother, Kai, he's in a power wheelchair. He has Duchenne as well. And, all the stuff that I'm teaching him, how to get out of your bed by yourself. And he replicates that same method and does it himself. And then, unfortunately, my other brother, Max, he passed away when he was 14. He had other health complications in addition to Duchenne, but he did pass away from that disease. So it's a very serious disease, as I said.
And you actually wrote a book called A Small If. What inspired you to do this?
Yeah, so I wanted to write a small if because I wanted to use my suffering and adversity to help other people overcome their adversity. Perhaps they don't have Duchenne. Perhaps they're going through emotional problems right now. Perhaps they have financial concerns, whatever it may be. I believe that everyone's going to suffer at some point in their life, and I want to use my suffering to help them overcome their suffering. So at the end of each chapter, there's a life lesson that I learned on how I overcome my adversity and how I am just living a fulfilling life. And so that's what the book's about. And I also believe that this book will help make Duchenne a mainstream known disease, which it needs that recognition.
And you offer 13 life lessons in your book. Can you share just a couple with us?
Yeah, sure. So one of my favorite lessons in the book is called that economy of control, which comes from the ancient Stoics. And basically it says to focus on what you can control and disregard what is not in your control. And a majority of the things are not in our control. So that's a really big lesson. Another big lesson is about the self-image. How do you see yourself? I don't see myself as a disabled person, but I see myself as someone that happens to have a disability. And that's a major difference. And so how you choose to see yourself is how you're going to act, and how you act is how people are going to see you. So that's a huge lesson that's in the book as well.
Elijah, I know now that you are the face of Duchenne because doctors look to you and your remarkable progress that you've made. I mean, are you finding more breakthroughs? You say that we need to know more about this, and you're right, we do. This, to be honest with you, this is the first I had ever heard about it researching this interview with you. I mean, what's next?
Yeah, so the medical field is making tremendous strides towards getting a cure for this disease. And I really think that we're entering the golden age of medicine. And so we just need to do everything we can. But there is a lot of hope. We're looking at things like gene editing, gene therapy, and these could be, complete cures for individuals with Duchenne, and not just Duchenne, but other genetic diseases. So, we really are entering a golden age of medicine, and I want to do everything I can to usher it in.
We have about a minute left, Elijah, but what do you hope is the takeaway from folks that read your book?
I want people to read my book, and I want them to just become mentally tougher. I want them to be resilient. I want them to overcome their adversity. I want them to have hope. I want them to be inspired. I want them to, live a life that is full of just, accomplishing things and purpose and meaning. So when people read my book, I want them to go, wow, we could really push the limits. You know, he wrote this book when he was 17 and he's accomplishing so much. You know, what can I do to make the world a better place? That's what I want people to get from reading my book.
Well, I'm inspired just talking to Elijah. Thank you so much for joining us on Bloom today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a real honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Elijah's book is available at major retailers, including Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and Target.com. For more information about Duchenne, visit destroyduchenne.org. We'll be back with more Bloom right after this.